Welcome to the City Current Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're honored each weekend to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations powering the good in our community. We're honored to kick it off with Paul Hickey. He's the CEO of Driven Design. How are you doing, Paul?
I am doing great. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Really happy to be on the show with you today. How's everything going with you?
It's doing well. So let's start. You've got a kind of a fun story in terms of starting your company. And it starts with you working on a website and spending all this time and effort. And then all of a sudden the CEO is saying, wait a second, I want to go a different direction based on the feedback of a friend. And so share a little bit of just the story of founding your company.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. That actually is a kind of a funny story. So you're right. The CEO of a particular company back in about 2011 decided, he wanted to redesign his website. And that's a, fairly common thing for business owners to want to do from time to time. And so we worked through the process of redesigning this website, and it was not inexpensive back in those days, around 10 years ago. It cost a lot more than it does today. So it was a pretty significant investment. And the night before the website was supposed to launch, he kind of started showing it around to some friends of his, and he had a very good friend of his over for dinner. And he showed his friend the website, and his friend just basically tore it to shreds. And he called us all in the next morning and said, we have to start from scratch. We have to do this whole thing over again. And we were kind of like, it's his money, so we have to respect his wishes. But we were challenging him a little bit, and we asked him why, and he said, well, my friend has this background in, consumer packaged goods design. And he said that if we were walking past, the frozen food aisle in the supermarket and this website wouldn't really catch our eye. And so it just kind of dawned on me at that moment that people really just do use their opinions really to guide their thinking with everything for the most part. And so with the web and with digital, you really have the opportunity, unlike most other platforms previous to digital, to really use data. There's data tracking behind the scenes on everything. And so it dawned on me that day that, this person really isn't looking at Google Analytics. They're really not looking at, there's different heat mapping tools that you can actually see where users click. You can record where users click on websites and different things like that and what they do during their sessions. And so, from that day forward, I was like, never again will we design a website based solely on someone's opinions. There has to be some level of data involved in designing websites. Otherwise, it's just the risk is that you really waste a lot of time and money. So that's really what got me started on the whole data-driven design concept.
Yeah, and to your point, we live in a world where everything is data-driven and everything is trackable now. And so to your point, using the data to make informed decisions so that you're able to be good stewards of resources, but also drive a real ROI. So talk about everything that you and your company do, because you do a lot. It's digital marketing, it's SEO, it's web design, analytics. So you cover a very broad spectrum.
Yeah. So you're right, we do. And I think the reason why we do that is because we're all self-taught, and we started, we all started building websites and trying to grow businesses via the web presence back in probably 2006, 2007. And so it's always really been about not only building a website, but how do you build a business out of that website? So even if the website's not literally an e-commerce store, it still needs to support your business in some way, whether it's selling sponsorships, selling ads through content, or whether it's, driving people to sign up for a particular service that you may offer. And so we are self-taught on basically how to get traffic to a website and how to track whether or not something's working in terms of conversion optimization. And because of all of that, that's really why we offer so many different things, because once you start to figure out how to do all that, you really get into the weeds and you uncover like, oh, well, there's this thing related to search engine optimization called Google Search Console, and that's really where you need to submit your website to Google. Then there's all these different things under Google Search Console. And then you figure out like, what's this listing over on the right-hand side of Google on desktop? And why is there this picture? And how can I change that picture? And that's Google My Business. And so then you have to like figure out how Google My Business works. And then like there's Facebook ads, and then there's Instagram, and then there's, you know, stuff like Alexa skills, and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, I was about to say,
So
it's
that's really the
constantly
reason
evolving
why
and
we
changing. And
offer
so
so many
you've
things.
got to be up on your game all the time. And you mentioned Alexa, but it's a big opportunity. And it's also obviously a big development. So talk about this kind of voice recognition and this kind of new era of stepping in for businesses.
Yeah, so basically, you know, it's all about how do users get their information. And so I've already mentioned Google, right? We all know, you know, we've all used Google for a couple decades now in terms of like how we get our information. And, you know, and then people start to get their information through social media, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you know, there's OTT platforms now where people are getting their information, like Netflix and Hulu and others, right? And so now, you see people start to figure out like, how can I get information while I'm in the shower or while I'm working out or while I'm driving, and, you know, multitasking. And so that's really where voice, like Alexa and Google Assistant, have really started to grow their numbers. Like, you know, Alexa has over 200 million active users now. Google Assistant is pre-installed on almost 400 million devices. And so, yeah, you can build these apps on top of, you can build these custom apps on top of Alexa and on top of Google Assistant called Skills and Actions, to basically give businesses a presence on top of these platforms so that they can be involved in almost like ranking on Google. They can be involved in kind of ranking on Alexa now.
Yeah. Where do you like to start? Because obviously every business is different in terms of where they are in this process. Where do you like to start and the questions you ask and kind of starting to guide them on a roadmap?
Yeah, so there's some businesses, you know, that really don't know much about what they want to do in terms of their business plan yet, you know, and then there's other businesses that are more well established. And so, you know, regardless of who you are, I think it's important to take a look at really two things. So who's your target audience, and what data do you have to kind of back up that that's your target audience? And then what's your value proposition? So, I mean, while a lot of what we do is highly technical and I think it's intimidating to a lot of people, we really start with just what's your value proposition? So in other words, out of all the different businesses that are providing your product or service, why would somebody choose you? And then we go and kind of marry those two things together and say, okay, let's validate who your target audience is with data. Then let's validate where they're getting their information, right? Because we don't want to necessarily build somebody an Instagram presence if their target audience is only on LinkedIn, for example, right?
Right.
So we validate like, where is your target audience getting their information from? And then we can really start to build like a digital marketing plan. And then the messaging is important too. And that's really where the value proposition comes into play, because you can't really build marketing messaging without knowing why you're unique and why people should do business with you.
Give me maybe one or two of your favorite tips when it comes to things like blogging, podcasting. I know these are areas that you cover as well. So give me maybe one or two of your favorite topics on those or tips on those.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple good real life examples too, but you know, a tip would be look at the questions that you're being asked, whether you're a retailer or whether you're a service provider. If you're asked the same question more than one time in a week, then that should be something you should create content out of. And you know, whether that's a podcast that you just kind of jump and record like a voice memo on your phone, and now you have some audio content of you talking about your subject matter expertise in a particular area. You're verbally answering a question And you can edit that a little bit and very easily turn that into, a less than 5-minute podcast episode. And you can transcribe that podcast. You can transcribe that audio into a blog. And before you know it, you've got like a piece of content, and it might not be pretty, but and that's really the thing that helps with A, bringing people into your business, and B, converting them into customers.
Yeah. Give me one thing that you think when it comes to analyzing the data that most businesses need to know, but they might not know. So what's kind of a top secret, if you will, secret sauce when it comes to looking at data and kind of unveiling the power of it?
Okay, so I think that there's a couple different like secret sauce type things that a lot of people don't really know about, or they know about, but they've heard about, but they've never really looked at. One that can be really, really impactful is called heat mapping. And that's where it's really, really easy to see what users actually do on your website, so that you can take that guessing game and opinion game out of things, and you can install like just a small snippet of code on your website through a third-party tool. One is called Crazy Egg. There's another one called Hotjar. They're relatively low-cost tools for any business to invest in and be able to basically see what users are doing. And then reading that data is really not that complicated either. It's really just about seeing like where are users clicking and where are they not clicking, and looking at your top viewed pages and looking at the heat mapping, and then making design decisions based on those two factors. So it's really not anything too complicated. And then I'll throw out two more quick ones. Another one is off the back of the heat mapping, you can run A/B tests. This is something that I think people hear about A/B tests a lot, but they don't really understand what it is. And this is really cool because like if you're a business and you just can't decide, like in this headline on our website, like, let's say John wants to say this one thing, but Sally wants to say this other thing. You can actually serve up the thing that John wants to say to 50% of the people, and then serve up the thing Sally wants to say to the other 50%. And then you can get data that says, well, it actually converted better with the thing that Sally wanted to say. And so you don't have to sit in like the meeting together and argue about what you should do. And you can do that with anything. You can do it with like what image to pick or what button, what color the button should be. And so those are kind of like my two top ones for like a website.
Well, and I love the fact that using data to drive decision making, because I go back to me, it's a simple analogy, but like Instagram, some of the posts that I'll post and spend the most time on won't go anywhere. And some of the ones that I just throw out there, all of a sudden, like those are the ones that go somewhere. But then you start looking at, okay, well, why did that one go somewhere? And you kind of analyze that data, and then it helps you make better decisions so you know what to post next time. And so if you're not paying attention, you're losing those opportunities. But if you are, and you're letting data drive your decision making and your creativity, you can be way more impactful.
Yeah,
I
I
think that's
couldn't have said that
to me,
any
a
better
powerful
myself.
opportunity on it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, a couple more examples on the social media front, because I like where you went with Instagram and, things like Facebook. I mean, there's no reason not to try increasing your post frequency, for example, because I think we've all kind of heard like, the algorithm changes all the time, and Facebook's, a long time ago stopped showing different posts to, like at the top of users' news feeds based on if they were friends or followers of your page. And they basically started to serve up your content based on whether or not the user was actually interested in your content. And really, like the data says that, if you're a business and you're posting on your business page, it's only really 30% likely that your entire following will see any one piece of content. So if you just kind of take that thinking and say, well, if I post 3 times more often, what will that do for my business? And so a couple of years ago, we started doing those kinds of experiments, and we found that really every business that increased their post frequency to that extent saw a huge increase, not only in the post engagement, but also in traffic to their website from Facebook. So different things like that, that people can overthink, like I don't want to post that much on Facebook because I might be seen too often. Well, let the data tell you, you know, and then if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. So, but you got to give it a try.
Yeah, but to your point though, letting data inform your decision making, that's always a great foundation to start from. So wrap up and talk about where companies can start and where individuals can start the conversation with you all, and obviously looking at the services that you provide. So talk about website and social media and just where we start and get going with you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So we primarily specialize in like three main service areas. One is any kind of digital marketing consultation or execution that you would need related to SEO or content creation or social media. Then our bread and butter is the website design and development. That's where we get really strategic, but we also have the ability to build fast and quality WordPress websites. That's our, I would say, our bread and butter. And then the third bucket is the voice development for Alexa and for Google Assistant. And so we're building custom voice apps for businesses that want to build a presence on top of Alexa and or Google Assistant. And surprisingly, that's like very low lift. It's not very high cost. In fact, we actually have a WordPress plugin. It's called the Voice Designer. And you can go to thevoicedesigner.com and actually use your WordPress website to build an Alexa skill and a Google action for your business all at the same time. So we're kind of wanting to put the business owner or the marketer in the back end of their WordPress website where they can manage their digital marketing and their website content and their voice apps all at the same time. And so thevoicedesigner.com would be great to check out. And then also driven.design is our website for anyone who's interested in a website or any kind of digital marketing help coming up.
Well, Paul, thank you for all you and your team do. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. Have a great day.